Welcome along then to another big match build-up show. And this episode is sponsored by OneFootball. Do check out their excellent free app to be notified of the latest transfer news coming in out of Saints or anybody in particular. Keep up to date with the latest scores and stats all in one place. To download the OneFootball app, click the link below the show. So then, we're back after a few days off because of an FA Cup exit. But it is a double game week ahead and we're making up for it. So first off, it is Wednesday night as Crystal Palace head to St Mary's on the same points in the league. And should Saints win, it's a chance for us to pull away more from the drop zone. And of course, there has been some transfer activity this week as Wesley Hoedt and Cedric have both departed on loan since we recorded the show. But we touch on that later on, so stick with us. But confidence is breeding across the fan base at the moment as I speak to our favourite Magnificent Mo and we chat to our Palace correspondent suggesting relegation is not without drama.
It is amazing, I mean, the turnaround, but also it shows you really don't actually have to win that many games when you're that close to the bottom to suddenly find yourself moving up. But, you know, we do have a real opportunity here with the Palace game, Burnley game and Cardiff. I mean, those three games, if we get 5 points, if we get 6 points, then we're going to be pulling away from the zone.
And we are a team that seems to just attract drama. You know, even when we should be doing better, we feel like, well, you know, it's like a soap opera. We're like, well, there's got to be a cliffhanger, so we might as well get dragged into relegation battle again. You know, it is Palace. So, yeah, we are always looking over our shoulder.
And as usual then, the episode is available to download in the card above my head if you're watching on YouTube, or available on most audio platforms below the show. And of course, at any point, do feel free to send us your comments. How do you think Saints will do against Crystal Palace this Wednesday? Time to kick off the show. And can Saints climb to an unthinkable 14th? Welcome along then to our first half of our big match build-up show. Crystal Palace visit St Mary's this Wednesday night after a few days off, but here to join us to preview the Crystal Palace game, I suppose, on Wednesday night. John, the host of the Saints FC podcast. First, we haven't seen you in a while, mate. How's things in the far southwest of England now?
Yeah, it's all right. The sun is finally starting to break through the clouds. I mean, pretty much the first 2 weeks I was here, it just rained constantly. And we've had some good weather since. That's a relief. I was a little bit worried that I'd sign myself up for kind of centuries of, overcast and pouring rain. But yeah, it's nice down here. I've been looking at what it would take to get to and from the game on Wednesday from here. And I think if I do that, I need to kind of finish all my meetings by about 3:30 in the afternoon and not expect to get home until 1 o'clock in the morning. So there's not much in the way of public transport. So
wow. Well,
yeah, it's going to take some getting used to.
Shall we get back to the football then? Obviously, it's been I suppose a few days now to sort of contemplate and savour another victory. Saints 2, Everton 1 last weekend, sort of the week before last. And Hasan Huttl admitted this was the best performance he's has seen since he's been in the club. And Sigurdsson's consolation, you thought surely it couldn't happen again, but how much added time? It was 4 was shown and 8 was played.
I talked about this on the podcast this week as well, and just what sort of kind of collective damage this has done to the hearts of Southampton supporters being put through those extra 4 minutes of added time. I think Hasan Huttl's right. I think it was a really good performance. I think you'd quite often say beating Arsenal is going to be a better result than beating Everton, but I think probably in the Everton game we were playing more to his style, so that's why it pleased him more perhaps than the Arsenal result. And we were creating lots of chances, and we did look dangerous. And James Ward-Prowse looks like a player that we've not seen in James Ward-Prowse before. It's funny. I was thinking about this yesterday actually. Is James Ward-Prowse potentially going to be our replacement for Stephen Davis? Is he going to be kind of the Stephen Davis Mark II, but with a bit more in terms of perhaps a bit more power and a bit more of the, dead ball thing?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, I'm a big fan of James Ward-Prowse, and to be fair, he's had a lot of stick about how he's not strong enough, how he isn't, doesn't put his foot in enough. But we've seen him really step up under Hasan Hutl over the last sort of month or two, and some of the commentators suggest he could be one of the first names on the team sheet right now, but alongside Højbjerg and Redmond, they're so important as well for the team right now.
Yeah, it's a nice problem to have, isn't it? Because I don't think James Ward-Prowse has ever really been the first name on the team sheet, has he? He's always been kind of like, he'll come in and do a job where someone else is perhaps, suspended or injured or whatever. And he's never really kind of established a foothold in the team. And it'd be really good to see him do that, because if he's doing that, he's doing it because he's playing well and, scoring goals, creating chances. Having Højbjerg back is so important. He's become like a real talisman, over the kind of last season and a half for Saints. And now under Hasenhüttl, again, we're seeing him going up a level. Redmond at the moment is undroppable, in my opinion. He's been our best player this season, and he's a huge creative outlet and a big goal threat now as well.
Yeah, well, I think Redmond, it is fair to say, is in the form of his life right now, scoring in every other game. And Højbjerg, even the manager said he wants to be here. He wants Højbjerg to be the long-term captain as well. But I suppose another touch
as long as he doesn't get sent off too many times.
Yeah, he's to keep his discipline in line. But I suppose we'll better check back on James Ward-Prowse's excellent strike. And there was a Twitter poll from Sky Sports News earlier on last week, and he was completely overlooked. What I hear, I think that's the best goal I've ever seen James Ward-Prowse ever score.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as well, because it demonstrated all the things that we've wanted James Ward-Prowse to do. He fought for the ball, he won it back, he made trouble for himself, he picked it up, he went towards goal, and then he just smashed it in. It just had absolutely everything. And it was, I think as well, this is probably why it pleased Hasenhüttl so much, because it was a result of that style of play, and it demonstrated that style of play working. And it was beautiful to watch as well. And then obviously you've got, the Saints kind of communications doing that kind of like fireball rocket coming off his boot. And it's suitable for it. It's great. It's good fun.
I mean, he's one example of some players that have stepped up. And actually from day one, I suppose Hasenhüttl said, I want a team that wants to buy into the philosophy. It's going to be sort of my way or the highway. And James Ward-Prowse has proven himself, but unlike some others we've seen last week, Wesley Hoedt has joined Sofiane Boufal on loan at Celta Vigo, and now, of course, news has emerged that Cedric is in advanced talks with Inter Milan, and he's preferring to work with a small squad, the manager. But who knows? This deal may even get across the line by the time this show comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because I think if you look at the squad depth, you perhaps think that right back is an area where we don't have that much depth. And then also with kind of Bertrand and Targett being both out at the same time as well, we've seen Cedric being used there. So it does seem strange that we're kind of shipping someone out who's, is being used by the manager to plug gaps in the squad. But, I think fair play. So, like, the thing is we don't know what kind of attitude Cedric has at training. If he wants, I think he's wanted to leave Saints for a little while now. And it's not like his performances are so kind of world class that you think, okay, yeah, whatever, you might want to leave, but there's no way we can cope without you, because I think Cedric has, under Hasenhüttl, just become a guy to plug the gaps. He's more interested in Valery, he's more interested in Ramsey than he is in Cedric. So I back him on that. Wesley Hoedt, I can only think it must be an attitude thing, because I think all of us can see that there's a good player in Wesley Hoedt just struggling to get out there. And I'm not sure whether maybe it's the pace of the Premier League, because he's quite prone to mistakes and perhaps he doesn't like being put under pressure, and that's why he's being shipped off, because he can't quite raise his level to the pace of the Premier League. But I think it's probably an attitude thing as well. And I can see how. It's the same with Pochettino. When we played well with Pochettino, he brought in young players. He took other players who'd been in the squad for a while up to a whole another level, a level that we didn't think they were capable of. And that's because they all had to be playing the same way. There's no room for kind of egos or individuals in that style of football. So I think we've got to back him. And, he's already got 4 wins in the Premier League in, 8 games. We've got to back him.
Yeah, absolutely. And egos is exactly what Hasenhüttl was quoted in the press the other day. He said, I want, if you want to be part of my team, I manage, it is important to put your ego to one side. But I suppose based on our efforts recently and the intensity that we've exampled, I mean, are we desperate for signings right now? Now, also considering that we're out of the FA Cup, we're out of the League Cup, we're only solely focusing on the Premier League.
I think probably at this point we've now got the squad to definitely see us through to the end of the season. January is quite a dodgy time to sign players. You know, some of them work, some of them don't. When you get January signs, generally pay over the odds. If Hasenhüttl thinks he's got the squad to, you know, get us out of trouble and finish, you know, comfortably outside of the relegation zone by the end of the season, and then he's going to have a better chance to look at things properly in the summer, then let's go with that. What's the point in wasting money now and then, you know, perhaps not having enough money in the summer to get in the players that we actually want to get it to bring in?
Well, here's the thing. I think they even admitted that the recent fans forum, there's going to be an overhaul in the summer, but it is good to actually sort of take some time off. You know, January, Christmas especially has been relentless, and obviously, you know, he asked a lot from his team, but it's good to have a small break. And of course, we all would have liked a novelty tie at Accrington Stanley, but you know, you could say the cliche is now we could focus on the Premier League, and you could say we also have a slight advantage over Crystal Palace ahead of Wednesday. Yeah,
I think we do. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what sort of team Palace put out at the weekend. But I've got to admit, I thought Palace looked really fantastic against Liverpool. And if it wasn't for Speroni having a dodgy game, I mean, I think it was his first game for a year and a half. Then I think they would have won that game. You know, they would have once again been that, you know, that bogey team for Liverpool, as they say that Palace are. But they're an interesting side, Palace. That I think they've got some similarities to Southampton. The fact that there's some players there who are highly talented, who are perhaps performing a little bit below their level, but then they seem to be able to raise their game quite a lot. And I think Hodgson, you know, games against Iceland aside, is actually quite a good football manager. You know, he picked up Palace in dire straits at the start of last season, didn't he? I think they lost 7 games in a row when he started, and he got them out of trouble. So I think Palace are one of those teams that can cause us problems. But then, you know, we're a different Saints now. We can definitely cause Palace problems. We can definitely win that match.
Well, it's true to say that we are feeling a lot more confident now. You know, Crystal Palace can turn over teams on the day. Of course, they did it at the Etihad, you know, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they've also got the small matter of an FA Cup tie on Sunday night. And, you know, a win on Wednesday for us could, you know, truly put daylight between us, and we could close that gap with the bottom 3 and actually leapfrog Palace in the meantime, go into 14th in the Premier League, which almost seems sort of unthinkable a couple of months ago.
We'll start getting nosebleeds, Freddie, at that sort of height. So it is amazing. I mean, the turnaround, but also it shows you really don't actually have to win that many games when you're that close to the bottom to suddenly find yourself moving up. But, you know, we do have a real opportunity here with the Palace game, with the Burnley game, and remind me who we've got next after that.
Cardiff.
Cardiff. I mean, those 3 games, if we're getting kind of 5-6 points, you know, it wouldn't be unthinkable for us to get 9. It probably would be unthinkable for us to get 9 points from that. But, you know, if we get 5 points, if we get 6 points, then we're going to be pulling away from the zone. I think probably the most important game in that lot is the Cardiff one, because you can then start to cut Cardiff adrift and stop having to worry about them too much. But it would be great to get victories over Burnley and Palace as well. Yeah, and hopefully we can get St Mary's rocking as well. I do think, generally speaking, the midweek games have better atmosphere at St Mary's. And then I think the style of football that Hasenhüttl is playing is also making the crowd more vocal in a positive way. I mean, I suppose we have been quite vocal in the past 2 years, but not in a particularly positive manner.
Well, the atmosphere was certainly there against Everton, and the confidence is breeding across the fan base. But all that being said, though, mate, predictions for Wednesday night? We're feeling confident for 3 points.
Oh, I don't know if I'm feeling confident for the 3 points, but I am going to predict a Saints win. I'm going to go for 2-1 again. Another 2-1.
Excellent. I will take that all day. And we leapfrog Palace. Really good to speak to you again, John. Just remind everybody, hopefully they've already subscribed to the podcast, but let everybody else know where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find us anywhere where you can get a podcast from. So whether you like to do it through iTunes, do it through Spotify, Stitcher, just search Saints FC Podcast and you'll be able to listen to us. And of course, you can see it on the YouTube channel of The Ugly Inside. So, you know, just do that. If you've managed to find this video, you can definitely find the Saints FC podcast. All right, excellent stuff. And enjoy yourself in the southwestern sunshine. We'll speak again soon, mate. Yeah, look, it's coming through now. I can barely see you, Freddie.
Magnificently done once again by John from the Saints FC podcast. Do make sure you check back later on this week or next for a review of the games ahead. And also, as John said, you can check back in our archives to listen to the shows. And do let us know your predictions for Palace. Are you feeling confident ahead of Wednesday? Let me know in the comments. But now it's time then to speak to our opposition to find out all things Crystal Palace. So welcome along then to our second half of our big Match Wednesday preview show, and join us once again, the host of the FYP 5-year plan Crystal Palace podcast, Jim Daly. Really good to see you again. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, how are you?
Not too bad. We're on the Hasenhüttl Express, and our confidence is certainly beaming at the moment.
Yeah, he looks. I've been told by people in the game that the new manager bounce isn't really a thing. But you guys have literally had it. Like, it's exactly what's happened. The impact he's had is incredible. And I've always thought you guys were underperforming and should be doing better. And he's got you back to a level really you should be at. Plus, he's got a really cool name. So there's nothing going wrong, really, is there?
Well, I suppose we better talk about Palace first of all, and we'll get to maybe your views on Hasenhüttl later on in the show.
Okay.
But unpredictable Palace, I think it is fair to say, at the moment. Pushing Liverpool, you really could have won that game a week or so ago. Wins over Man City with an incredible strike from Townsend, probably the goal of the season, and away wins at Wolverhampton recently.
Yeah, it is quite frustrating, I think, being a Palace fan right now, because you can see the quality they've got in that team. The potential is there for a top 10 finish easily. But we lack a bit of consistency. We're making mistakes. At Liverpool last week, we were at 2-2, and then Julian Speroni, obviously a Palace legend, gets the bounce of the ball wrong and chucks it basically in the goal. We still love him, by the way. It doesn't matter. He could have done a bicycle kick into that goal, and I'd still love him for what he's done to our club. The guy is a hero and always will be. But these are the margins that you're working with, and in previous games, you had the same. James Tompkins the other week has been our best player all season, made a couple of horrible errors in one game. I think the home game against Watford, and we lost that. So it is frustrating. We're going to be okay. And we know that we will probably finish where we are now or a bit higher. And we have the potential to do that. But I think it just feels like we might be sort of wasting opportunity at the moment, maybe, with the players we've got in that squad.
Well, like you say, I think you really could have snatched a victory at Anfield had it not been for Speroni's blunder. But, I think there's a distinct possibility you could be dragged into this relegation fight. Are you looking over your shoulder at the moment? Because as it stands, we're on exactly the same points. To
be honest, I think if you're a team outside the top 7, you're always in that mix. My theory is everyone outside that top 6, 7 basically will get relegated at some point. Palace will, Saints will, might be 2 years down the line, might be 5 years down the line, might be 15 years down the line. We're in that mix where teams just do that. You look at the Aston Villas of the world, and Leeds, teams like that go down, that are big teams that people thought would probably stay in the top flight for ages. So that happens. You always have to be looking over your shoulder. And we are a team that seems to just attract drama. We do, even when we should be doing better, we feel like, it's like a soap opera. We're like, well, there's got to be a cliffhanger, so we might as well get dragged into relegation battle again. It is Palace. So, yeah, we are always looking over our shoulder. I still think we'll be fine. There's worse teams down there. Same for you guys. You look at the Cardiffs of the world and the Huddersfields, and the Fulham are, just an absolute basket case. So I think we'll all be okay, but I think probably like you guys feel like there's a squad there that should be doing better.
Yeah, and I think probably those feelings are shared between both fan bases. We feel like we've got a really good squad. We should be pushing up around mid-table. I think it's probably fair to say. But, as it is also, as we're recording this, it is FA Cup weekend. So we're actually recording just before Palace take on Spurs on Sunday night. Obviously, there's been a lot of, reputation about the Cup that Premier League managers don't like playing their best 11. So would you expect much rotation on Sunday night?
I've heard that we're putting out a fairly mixed team. Zaha and Townsend will play because we literally have no other options up there. So unfortunately, they will. I think we've got a big game, obviously, against you on Wednesday. And I think we probably in our ideal world would have rested players like Wilfred and Andros, but we've literally got no other options. So they'll be playing. I think we'll see a couple of squad players like Connor Wickham, maybe, or Benteke, or Jeffrey Schlupp in the middle. Max Meyer might get a bit of a run out. So I think it'll be a mixed team, but then, Spurs also have got no players at the moment either. So they'll be putting out a fairly sort of mixed team as well, I'd imagine. Although I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that Heung-min Song has still got jet lag and can't play, because if he plays, it could be a different game. So I think it'll be 2 Premier League teams with their eyes on something else actually on Sunday, probably putting in slightly weakened teams. But who knows in the FA Cup? Again, this is Palace. We're a crazy team. We beat Spurs 3 years ago in the 5th round on the way to the cup final. No one, that was at White Hart Lane. No one expected that. So I never know with Palace going into a game, really. And that Liverpool result and that City result proves it. You just don't know with this Palace team what's going to happen. You think you do. You think you're getting some sort of consistency going or something, and then they do something weird. So we could lose 4-0 on Sunday. We could win 2-0. Who knows?
Well, I'm sure there'll be a twist in the tail somewhere, like you say, like a soap opera, more twists and turns than EastEnders, But I suppose as fans, we'd love sort of cup runs over the league. But what do you think the approach would be? For both games, you said there'd be a lot of rotation, perhaps for Sunday. But you've also been blighted by injuries recently, especially in goalkeeper, and this week you've also signed a brand new goalkeeper on loan from Sao Paulo, Lucas Perry. What do you know of him? Is he expected to start on Wednesday?
I really doubt it. I think he's been coming as third choice, probably ahead of Speroni. Excellent pronunciation, by the way, Lucas Perry. That was very nice. He hasn't. I believe he's not played a first team game ever, so I can't imagine that Palace will be chucking him in straight away. I think he's one for the future. Although judging by his interview on the official Palace website, seems like a very nice, level-headed young man. So that's a big ask to come from South America to London and play. So who knows what happened with him? But I wish him all the success at Palace. It'll be Speroni in goal, I'd imagine, on Sunday. The way things are going, but when Hennessy and Guaita come back, whenever that is, I don't know if that's for Wednesday or not. Maybe. Julian probably hasn't got many more games in him, so Sunday might be his last game for Palace. The guy has played 404 times for us. He kept us in the Championship. He's kept us in the Premier League. He's helped us get to a top 10 finish. The guy's a hero for us. So if Sunday is, if we lose, but it's a goodbye to Julian Speroni and we get to give him our appreciation, then, that might be the main thing we take away from it. And I think that's probably going to be my main aim for the game.
And I suppose this season, like you already touched upon, that you're over-reliant on Zaha and Townsend, playing a lot of games recently as well. But, obviously Thursday is the deadline, the transfer deadline day. We're playing Wednesday night. This week, I've seen reports that Cenk Tosun is linked with Crystal Palace. And that's been a major problem this season, hasn't it? Strikers not regularly scoring goals. Benteke's nowhere to be seen again.
Yeah, well, he's been injured for a bit. He came back last week for a couple of minutes off the bench, or a week before. Wickham's obviously been out for 2.5 years, which is crazy. I mean, you do worry with players like that will they ever be back to what they were? And he's still quite a young man, but 2 years out is horrible. And he kept having setbacks coming back from his injuries. So I worry about that. Tussen's a good player. I've seen him play at Everton a couple of times while watching Palace, and I think he scored against us earlier this season as well. He's a good player, and we have been linked with him before, so I wouldn't be too upset with that one. The other rumour is Yannick Bolasie potentially coming back on loan, and apparently we're signing Bakary Sakho again on a 6-month contract. So I'd say we seem to favour ex-players over anyone else. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Bright is getting his kit off at some point, or Ian Wright comes back for 5 minutes. We just seem to love our ex-players at Palace. So I know there's not a lot of money. So if we do get anything, it will probably be loans. A loan for Yannick, maybe a loan for Tosun. So we're not going to have any, big signings. That's kind of the way we are at the moment. But we'll see. I mean, if Benteke and Wickham come back to full fitness and they are fit for the rest of the season, then obviously those are two good players. I know Benteke didn't score many goals last season, but he's still a good striker. So you'd like to think maybe with those two back, we might have a few more goals in us. But you're absolutely right. We rely on Wilf so much. And if he's having an off game, we kind of don't have a plan B. I mean, Andros has done better this season. They've scored a couple of goals like the one at City, but we do give it to Wilf a bit too much. And I wonder sometimes if we over-rely on him because, we don't really have a backup.
Well, I guess there was a statistic that was doing the rounds up until sort of mid-season that you hadn't ever won a game under a game without Wilfried Zaha. And I suppose it tells you everything you need to know that your top scorer this season with 6 goals is Lukamil Ojovic. I suppose that tells you everything you need to know about your crisis. And I suppose most of those have been penalties.
Yeah, and that was the same last season. He was our top scorer with 10 goals last season. I think 7 of them were penalties. So we miss a target man, or we miss a goal scorer. That is literally what we miss at the moment. Everything else is okay. When the goalkeepers are fit, we've got enough there. Our back four, I think, is actually 5th or 6th best in the league in terms of clean sheets. So we're very good defensively. We just don't score goals. And that has been our problem for a couple of years, really, since Benteke's first season when he banged in 17. When Alan Pardew was our manager. God, that was a long time ago. Remember when Pardew was in charge of Palace and Saints? God, he's been a man that's just ruined many clubs down the line, down the years. So, yeah, that's where we're at. A striker would be nice, but we've kind of had to make do this season. And we've done okay, but we could be doing better.
And I suppose the last time we met, it was our first win of the season back in sunny September. Actually, we spoke after the game back then, done a post-match podcast for your show as well, and you were relatively underwhelmed then. But what's the general feeling right now, and how much of Saints have you seen this season? What's your prediction for Wednesday night?
I've seen a few games of you recently, actually, under the new guy, and it just feels to me like you're back to where you should be in a way. You've got some good players there, and he feels like he's injected a bit of life. I don't know if that's a fair comment, but he seems like he's kind of got you believing a bit again. Which makes me think that it'll be a tougher game, than it would have been with Hughes in charge. Having said that, we do seem to have a fairly decent record down at St Mary's in recent years. I feel like we always seem to snatch something. So if we can come through Sunday without any crazy injuries, I think we'll go to St Mary's fairly confident. God, I remember that game in September. We were absolutely awful. We were so bad, but we have got better since then. And our away form is better than home form. There's something about playing away from home. We just seem to express ourselves a bit better and we seem more confident. So I'm going to go, I think 1-1. Palace might sneak it 2-1, but I think 1-1 is probably fair given your form at the moment. But I look forward to it. Like my parents live on the south coast in Chichester, so whenever there's a game down there, I was going to see my old man. We're sitting in the away end Wednesday night together, which is always fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I went to uni in Southampton, so I got fond memories of Southampton, very much so. But I hope that it's a fun game on Wednesday. And yeah, I'd take a point.
All right, excellent stuff. And hopefully we'll catch up for a pint before the match.
That'd be lovely.
Hopefully there'll be time as well. And just tell everybody where, if there is a Palace fan watching this show, tell everybody, hopefully they've already subscribed to your show, but tell everybody where we can find you, mate.
Yeah, if the Palace fans aren't subscribing to me now, then there's no point. I might as well give up. The FYP podcast is what we do every week, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and all the places at FYP Fanzine. And if you're not a Palace fan, I also do a comedy football YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/JimDailyComedy, where I do parody football songs and silly videos for everything, not just Palace. So if you fancy a laugh, then check that out.
Excellent stuff. Really good to speak to you, and hopefully we'll catch up on Wednesday, mate.
Top man. Thanks, mate.
Once again, a big thanks to Jim from the 5-Year Plan podcast. Do make sure you check out their show for all your Palace needs and subscribe to their social pages for more. But that does wrap up this week's Wednesday show. Do look out for our fan reactions after the match, of course, and we'll be back later on this week for our annual Freeze Fest at Burnley. So thank you very much for watching and listening along. Only one thing left from me is come on, you Saints.